Amy asked me what I got on my college entrance exams. I pretended I'd bombed, putting on a sad face. I was too nervous during the test, I said, my voice low. I didn't do my best. Just barely made the cutoff for a state school. Amy, will you take a gap year with me to try again? Before the exams, when I was completely stressed out, she had comforted me, promising she'd retake them with me if I didn't do well. She was so earnest back then, her eyes full of sincerity. I was so touched I almost cried. This time, telling her I failed was just meant to be a little joke. Even if I really had bombed, how could I ever let her sacrifice a year for me? A flash of disappointment crossed Amy's face, but just as quickly, she let out a breath, as if a huge weight had been lifted. Her tone had a gleeful edge, like she could finally look down on me.
Leo, I'm sorry.
I can't gamble with my future. Let's break up. I've already made plans with Henry to go to UCLA together. This is just how things worked out. I hope you can accept it. I was so stunned I didn't know how to react. I had imagined so many possible responses from her. It's okay. If you didn't do well, I'll retake the exams with you. I'll wait for you in college. We can apply to schools in the same city. Or maybe she'd see through my clumsy act, grab my arm, and demand to know my real score. But she accepted my lie so quickly, and she believed it without a single doubt, as if it was something she had been hoping for. Amy's usual gentle expression was gone, replaced by a rare sharpness. Honestly, some people just can't handle high-stakes tests. They always choke. Even if you took a gap year, you'd probably get the same result. You should just apply to a state school and be done with it. Henry and I both scored in the high 600s. We're planning to go to UCLA together. Leo, at this point, all we can say is it wasn't meant to be. My mouth hung open, but no words came out. Was this really the same Amy who had always been so careful and sweet around me? She'd been attached at my hip all through senior year. We studied for tests together, got caught in the rain together, and shared all our secrets. We promised we'd both go to college in Boston and build a life together. I was in her future and she was in mine. We used to dream so much about what college would be like. Now, a score I'd completely made up had shattered everything. A bitter taste filled my mouth, and my voice came out raspy. How long have you two been together? She sighed, looking at me with a hint of pity. Leo, does that really matter now? The point is, there's no future for us. Henry and I are on the same wavelength now. It's a real shame about you, though. Finally, she gave a regretful shake of her head and walked away. I stood there, stunned, for several minutes. In our class, I was always first, Amy was second, and Henry was third. I knew Henry had a crush on Amy. He was always trying to impress her, creating any excuse to be around her. Just like Amy was always trying to please me, constantly orbiting my world. But Amy only had eyes for me and was always cold to him. To try and win her over, Henry tried to sabotage me more than once. He accused me of cheating and got other students to ice me out. But all his little schemes fell apart in the face of my unshakable position as number 1 in our grade. In our senior year, your score was everything. Everything else could wait. Amy had even made her feelings clear to him right in front of me. Henry, I only care about Leo. Stop with all your little games. You're just making a fool of yourself. Henry bit his lip and walked away, humiliated. After that, he channeled his shame into his studies, desperately trying to catch up to us. Slowly, his scores started to rival Amy's. But I was always the mountain neither of them could climb. Sometimes Amy would complain to me, Leo, how are you so smart? No matter how hard I try, I can never beat you, let alone be your equal. Does it make me seem useless? I'd often hear other people call Amy perpetual number 2. No matter how hard she worked, she could never surpass Leo. She never showed it, but I'm sure it bothered her. To make her feel better, I'd occasionally slip up on a test. Let her get first place and be happy for a while. My homeroom teacher called me into her office a few times for it. She said she had a weak heart and told me to stop scaring her. Of course, it only happened a couple of times. If I slipped up too often, my teacher would have separated me and Amy for sure. Maybe because of that history, that's why Amy was so quick to believe I'd choke on the real exams. The class group chat was blowing up with people posting their scores. The constant pinging pulled me out of my daze. I opened the chat and saw that Amy had just posted her score. 652. A very good score. Good enough for almost anywhere besides Harvard or MIT. Right after her was Henry. 649. Also a great score. Our classmates were flooding the chat with congratulations. The scores kept popping up. None were higher. Then someone asked about me. What did our class valedictorian Leo get? Haven't seen him post his score. Probably the top score in the state, right? If not the top, then close. He's not even in the same world as us. Amy, completely out of character, quickly jumped in to clarify. No, he bombed. Everyone, please stop asking. The group chat went unusually silent for a few minutes. I let out a bitter laugh. Amy really couldn't wait for me to fail, could she? Turns out, she was the most jealous one of all. My phone suddenly rang, the ringtone sharp and urgent. I looked down and saw it was my homeroom teacher. I quickly answered, and her booming voice came through the speaker. Leo, what was your score? Some idiot in the group chat said you bombed. I'll believe that when pigs fly. Quick, tell me your score. I rushed to calm her down. Ms. Davison, I got a 708. Unfortunately, not the top score in the state, though. My teacher let out a huge sigh of relief. I knew it. You're the best student I've ever had. After hanging up, I felt a little lost. Every step of this post-exam process was supposed to include Amy. She had it all planned out. After we submitted our college applications, we were going to take a big road trip south. We'd see the great national parks, Yosemite and Zion, and marvel at the country's majestic scenery. Then we'd shop for dorm supplies and head off to Boston together. Now, someone else was going with her. The stark contrast in Amy's behavior left me reeling. How can some people just say they don't love you anymore? Just betray you like that? There was a dull ache deep inside me, but it wasn't agony. It was just like she said, a little regretful. Maybe people who aren't on the same wavelength really can't be together. When I got home that evening, my mom excitedly told me she'd found an old schoolmate of mine. Our neighbor, the one who went to Northwood High, she scored even better than you. I heard she got the top score in the state this year. Her mom invited us over for dinner tonight. You two will be schoolmates again. A mischievous, clever face flashed in my mind. From elementary school through middle school. From every sport to every academic competition. Vivian had always competed with me. Sometimes she was first, sometimes I was. But she never once beat me in gym class. In middle school, she wasn't even as tall as me. In the long jump, sprints, and other events, I always left her in the dust. She couldn't even win when we were just messing around. We went to different high schools after that. She went to Northwood and I went to Southside. Since we both lived in dorms and rarely came home, I didn't see her once in 3 years. I only heard that her grades were still incredible. Still right on par with mine. When I saw Vivian again at her house that night, I was completely shocked. The little girl from middle school who was shorter than me had blossomed into an elegant young woman who had nearly caught up to my height. She wasn't the hyperactive kid I remembered, either. She seemed incredibly composed. Her skin was fair, and her features had matured, giving her a refined, almost ethereal beauty. Paired with a pair of clear, titanium frame glasses, she had an air of cool detachment. Vivian's mom was incredibly warm, piling food onto my plate with a smile. Leo did great too. You two can be together again. Have you two decided between Harvard and MIT? One at Harvard and one at MIT is fine too. They're so close it'll be easy to see each other. Vivian suddenly cut in. Mom, he can't eat spicy food. Her mom paused for a second, then laughed. Oh, there's non-spicy stuff. Here, have this chicken leg. I looked up at Vivian. I couldn't believe she still remembered after all these years. In middle school, spicy snacks like tacos were all the rage. Almost everyone had a bag. But I couldn't handle even a little bit of spice. It would upset my stomach. Every single time, without fail. Vivian knew I couldn't eat it, so she'd often sit in front of me, dramatically fanning her mouth while munching on them. She wouldn't leave no matter how many times I told her to get lost. It was like she'd feel off if she didn't antagonize me at least once a day. Even now, I still can't eat spicy food. After dinner, our parents chatted while Vivian and I went for a walk. I remembered how she used to constantly cause trouble for me. I could just reach out, press down on her head, and ask her if she could ever behave. Vivian would immediately surrender, apologizing at lightning speed. Then do it again later. Now I looked down at her. She was no longer the little girl I could easily subdue. Leo, give me your number. Even her voice had changed. It was crisp and pleasant, like the tinkling of a mountain spring. Oh, okay. I added her on WhatsApp and saw her display name, Vivian. I never thought she'd become so mature and steady, so different from the past. Which school are you thinking of? Harvard. For math. What about you? I stopped walking. I'm starting to think you peeked at my application. She smiled. She quickly hid her phone, where a message she'd just seen was displayed. It was from my mom. Under the moonlight, her glasses reflected a soft glow. Great minds think alike. So, Leo, can I invite you on a graduation trip? That night, I tossed and turned in bed. One moment, I'd see Amy's cold, indifferent face. The next, Vivian's polite yet confident smile. The class group chat was still buzzing. They were all discussing plans for tomorrow's graduation party. My best friend, Max, sent me a message. He asked if I was going. Leo, I heard you didn't do well. If you don't want to come tomorrow, I can hang out with you instead. I thought about it. This might be the last time I'd see everyone. Besides, I had nothing to hide from, so I agreed to go. When I got to the venue the next day, Max wanted to hit the restroom first and told me to wait outside. I ran right into Amy, who was just coming out. She didn't expect to see me. She frowned and pulled me aside. Leo, I really don't know why you even came. If people ask for your score, can your pride really handle it? I just stared at her. Even now, I felt a powerful sense of disconnect. So, Amy, you really chose Henry? She closed her eyes, looking exasperated. Leo, I know this is hard for you to accept, but we're not a match anymore. From this moment on, we're in different leagues. Our social circles and our environments will be on totally different levels. We won't have anything in common to talk about. Even if we forced ourselves to stay together, our different educations and outlooks would just drive us further and further apart until we had a bitter breakup. Is it better to just face reality now? Is that how it was? So that's what it came down to. I nodded. You're right. Don't worry. I won't bother you. Max walked over. He knew Amy had cheated on me. He shot her a dirty look, then threw an arm around my shoulder and steered me inside. Move it. Get out of the way. Amy's face darkened, but she followed us in without a word. Most of our classmates were already there. Somehow a rumor had started that I'd only scored in the 500s. People were whispering about how I had the nerve to show up after a score like that, as if I wasn't afraid of being shamed. I had only told one person my fake score, Amy. So, this is what happens when love turns to hate. You kick someone when they're down. I was so blind in high school. All for nothing, after I spent a whole year tutoring her day and night. Max shielded me from all the malicious glares. Ignore them. They wouldn't get it. You're on a completely different level. He leaned in and whispered, if you really scored in the 500s, I'll eat my keyboard. I smiled and nudged his head. You're too much. Just as I looked up, Henry and Amy came over, holding hands. He tilted his chin up, a sneer on his face. Leo, where'd you apply? He said it loudly, and the entire room suddenly went quiet. Everyone, intentionally or not, glanced in our direction. They were all curious to see where the fallen valedictorian was headed. The two of them were clearly trying to humiliate me. I met their gazes and answered calmly. I applied to a university in Boston. Henry and Amy exchanged a knowing look and smirked. Not many schools you can get into in Boston with your score. What, like some community college? I didn't say anything, but Amy chimed in. Leo, you don't have to go to Boston. There are some decent state schools out west you could consider. Henry started grandstanding, calling out to other students. Hey, does anyone know some good state schools? Let's help our genius Leo out. He's not familiar with these kinds of schools. Back in the day, they weren't even on his radar. But it's not too late to learn. Leo, you can't be so stuck up anymore. You gotta learn to bow your head, or you're the one who'll suffer. Max, knowing I hated confrontation, stepped in front of me and pointed a finger at them. You better remember these smug looks on your faces. You're going to regret this. Henry fiddled with the expensive watch on his wrist, his expression exaggeratedly dismissive. Oh, is our genius planning to take a gap year and make a huge comeback to prove us wrong? I'm afraid I won't live long enough to see that. Amy kindly reminded me, Leo, that guy over there, Joe, got a score similar to yours. You should ask him for advice on applications. This is about your future, you can't be reckless. No thanks. I gave her a cold look. She felt like a complete stranger. Maybe I had never really known her at all. Max grabbed my arm to pull me away. The air stinks over here. Let's go hang out somewhere else. He dragged me over to a game. Truth or dare. The dares were wilder than anything I'd ever seen. More and more people joined in, until the spinner landed on me. Truth or dare. It was my first time playing a game like this, and it was kind of thrilling. A minute ago, someone who chose dare was forced to kiss a person of the same sex for 3 full minutes. I still hadn't recovered from watching that. I'll choose truth. Someone asked, Leo, what was your actual final exam score? In an instant, all eyes were on me. I had never officially addressed the rumor that I'd bombed. A lot of people were skeptical. They wanted to hear me confirm it myself. The noisy chatter died down instantly. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Amy and Henry had been watching our group the whole time. Before I could answer, she got agitated. What's wrong with you guys? You know he didn't do well and you're still going to ask him that? Aren't you just rubbing salt in the wound? Henry chimed in with a sarcastic tone. What's this? You were always protecting him in school, and you still feel sorry for him now? Amy couldn't explain why, but she felt a wave of unease. Leo looked completely calm. Not at all like the flustered mess he was when he first told her his score. Leo, what are you being so proud for at a time like this? Just tell us your score so we can all have a good laugh. Henry could hardly wait. He'd been living in Leo's shadow for years. This was his moment to finally shine. Otherwise, this complex would haunt him for the rest of his life. Yeah, genius, just say it. We're all dying to know. You never scored below a 680 on a practice test. Did you really bomb? What happened? Do you think being in a relationship really affects your grades? Are you going to take a gap year? 708. I stated the number calmly. What did you say? I met everyone's gaze and repeated myself. My final exam score is 708. For a moment, all the chatter stopped. The smile on Henry's face froze. Even his perfectly styled hair looked a little ridiculous. Amy gripped her wine glass so hard the liquid inside sloshed, nearly spilling. Are you kidding me? Henry's voice went high and squeaky. Amy quickly recovered. Leo, if you bombed, you bombed. What's the point in lying to yourself? You never even broke 700 on a practice test. And this year's exam was harder. Who's going to believe you got a 708? Hey, question asker, just pick a different question. It's not cool to pick at someone's scabs. Henry caught Amy's reassuring glance and let out a sigh of relief. Right? He's just saying that. You don't have to take it seriously. The guy was number 1 in our class for years. Do you really expect him to admit he only got a 500-something? It's humiliating. If it were me, I'd probably want to jump off a bridge. But isn't the idea of the perennial number 1 student getting a 500-something a bigger joke? Someone posed the million-dollar question. The room went dead silent again. Max watched the roller coaster of expressions on their faces and couldn't help but chuckle. Some people are really something else. Their hearts are so twisted by jealousy they've lost all basic judgment. I wonder who's really lying to themselves here. What are you talking about? Amy couldn't take it anymore and jumped in to defend herself. He came to me the second the scores were released and said he bombed. He was really down. Anyone who's been on top for so long would have a hard time falling into the mud. He's just trying to save face. I was with him constantly senior year. I know him better than any of you. Leo is under a lot of pressure. He's not as relaxed as you all think. He had a breakdown and bombed 2 mock exams. Before the finals, he asked me if I'd retake them with him if he failed. He was clearly expecting the worst, so I'm not surprised at all that he got in the 500s. I was almost impressed by her confidence. She hadn't even seen my score report but was so certain. But then again, I kind of understood. Amy had lived in my shadow for so long. On the surface, she was obedient and eager to please, but deep down, a darkness had taken root. She was the hardest working student in our class. Her family said her lights were still on at 2 a.m. Meanwhile, I went to bed on time every night, kept a regular schedule, and sometimes even read books for fun. To keep her from feeling too much pressure, I'd lie and say I needed to read to de-stress. She thought she was brilliant, but she could never catch me. After complaining, she would always say, my boyfriend is number 1, so by extension, I'm number 1 too. But sometimes, hard work isn't enough. You also need talent. Unfortunately, Amy wasn't one to accept fate. She fantasized about the day I'd fall, the day I'd fail. Then she could stand on high, look down on me, and grant me a pitying glance. See? You can't stand too tall or you'll fall hard. Lesson learned. Phew. Her heart could finally be at ease. She wasn't wrong about one thing. She wanted a relationship of equals, not an unbalanced one. I didn't argue. I did ask her that question before the exams. If I bomb, will you retake the year with me? Between the two of us, she was the one who was always stressed, anxious, and needing relief. I asked her that on purpose. Her answer was decisive. Of course I will. Later, she asked me a question too. If you have the scores to get into Harvard or MIT, would you give it up for me? My answer was also from the heart. Yes. Because in my eyes, Harvard and MIT weren't the most important things. Plenty of brilliant people didn't come from those schools. As long as you have the ability, you can shine anywhere. Unfortunately, Amy never gave me the chance. I don't like to argue, so I motioned to Max that we should leave. But someone stopped me. Hey genius, just show us your score page. Don't keep us in suspense. Not wanting to cause more drama, and just to end the argument, I took out my phone, pulled up the official education portal website, and showed everyone the score. Max let out an exaggerated shout. Holy crap, it really is 708. I can't believe I'm seeing a score over 700 with my own eyes. And it's my best friend's. Nope, I gotta take a picture of this for posterity. The room erupted in gasps and cheers. Someone took a screenshot of my results and posted it in the class group chat. WTF. 708. And he calls that bombing? He's a real god. I knew the rumor about him getting a 500 was total BS. Can't believe people fell for that. A 700+ score. I've seen one in the wild. The moment Amy saw it, she collapsed into her chair. Her face went from red to white, then to a sickly gray. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't make a sound. But Henry suddenly held up his phone and shrieked.
Impossible.
This has to be photoshopped. Technology is so good these days. Faking a picture like this is easy. Amy, say something. Don't tell me you fell for it too? Leo is going to extreme lengths to protect his reputation. Don't let him fool you. Henry was as excited as if he'd discovered a new continent. Look at this 7. Doesn't it look like it was changed from a 5? The edges are a little blurry. The students around him started backing away, looking at him like he was an idiot. This time, no one had any doubts. Our homeroom teacher had appeared at the door at some point. She was beaming. She clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. Students, I'd like to congratulate Leo on achieving the highest score in our school's history. The admissions office from Harvard has already contacted him through the school. The rest of you also did great. The teachers are very proud of you. The room exploded with thunderous applause. Only Amy remained sitting there, stunned. Henry, however, was still bizarrely calm, boasting to the people around him. See? Leo even got the teacher to come back him up. Everyone knows she treasures him like the apple of her eye. They probably already arranged for him to repeat the year in her class. She always had high hopes for him. She wouldn't want to give up on him. Someone who couldn't stand it anymore retorted, "Are you saying the teacher would conspire with him to lie?" Henry said it like it was the gospel truth. Of course. Leo cares about his reputation more than anything. They must have made some kind of deal for her to help him lie. "You're insane." Amy had appeared behind me at some point. Leo, her voice was hoarse. Her red-rimmed eyes filled with an unreadable emotion. Why did you lie to me? Was it funny watching me make a fool of myself? These past 3 years of high school, what was I to you? Did you ever even take me seriously? I watched her twisted expression, feeling completely bored. "Amy, it was just a joke," I said with a light laugh. "Who knew you'd take it so seriously? You couldn't wait to draw a line between us. You've been waiting for that moment for a long time, haven't you?" Amy's face went white. Henry rushed over and grabbed her arm. "Amy, don't fall for it. He's just being stubborn, putting on a brave face." Amy looked at Henry's confident expression and wavered again. "Amy, if you go back to him now, you'll be the one with egg on your face. Look at this picture. It's such a terrible Photoshop job. I could make you hundreds of these if you want. And think about it. Leo's such a proud guy, always praised by everyone. Making him admit in front of all our classmates that he only got a 500-something? That's worse than killing him. But he can get away with it because only people who don't know will believe it. You were with him every day, so he can't fool you." Amy's mind reeled for a moment. Then she lowered her gaze, having convinced herself once again. "Leo, I remember that Max is a pro at Photoshop, right? I can't believe you'd resort to something like this. Have you even thought about what you'll do when the truth comes out?" Henry quickly chimed in to support her. "By then, everyone will be off to their own colleges. Who knows if they'll ever see each other again? How many people will be there to see his shame? What does he have to be afraid of? Anyway, he's managed to keep his reputation as the school's #1. In everyone's minds, he's still the infallible genius." He finished with a sneer. "To have this kind of nerve and audacity, truly worthy of being our genius." Max and I looked at each other, both of us shocked by what we were hearing. These two had some serious imagination. No wonder they were good at English. Too bad their math skills sucked. No matter how hard they studied, their scores never improved. They just lacked logical thinking. Amy looked at me with a heartbroken expression, hoping I would confess. "Leo, you're just digging your own grave. Stop this now. Listen to me. Why don't you apply to a school in Seattle? Don't pick one with too high a score requirement. That way I can be nearby to take care of you." Henry got anxious, shaking her arm. "Amy, no. Why are you still letting him follow you? I don't want that." Amy lowered her head to soothe him. "It's okay, Henry. He's just going to some second-rate state school. He's no threat to you. He looked after us for 3 years in high school. It's our turn to look after him in college." Henry blinked, understood her hidden meaning, and let out a chuckle. Max couldn't help but give them a thumbs up. "You two are really one of a kind." I just shook my head, completely unable to comprehend their logic. Weren't they the ones who couldn't accept reality? Amy couldn't handle the consequence of me playing a simple joke that she took with deadly seriousness. And Henry wanted to see me fail even more than Amy did. For 3 years, his jealousy was a tangible thing. Every time he looked at me, his eyes were bloodshot. But he just didn't have what it took. He kept shooting himself in the foot. Jealousy is a weak person's arrogance. It's also an arrow aimed at oneself. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the wound. It's like an uncontrollable knife. You try to stab someone else, but it always ends up in your own heart. My teacher came over and patted my shoulder. "Leo, the admissions officer from Harvard is at the school. The principal wants you to come over." I nodded and left the party with my teacher. Behind me, Henry was still trying to brainwash Amy. "Look how good they are at acting. Harvard admissions, really? Why not MIT?" At the school gate, Vivian was standing with the people from Harvard admissions. The bright summer sun made it hard to open my eyes. It filtered through the dense camphor trees, casting dappled shadows on her dress. I walked over and fell into step beside her. In that moment, I understood what it meant to be equals, what it meant to be on the same wavelength. And I was filled with a profound hope for the future. Afterward, Vivian and I made a detailed travel plan. We decided on a graduation trip to California. We had originally planned to have our parents come along, but both sets of parents, as if they had coordinated, declined. They said they wouldn't want to cramp our style and that we should just go by ourselves. Adults are so dramatic. What was surprising was Max insisting on coming with us. Please, guys, I swear I won't be a third wheel. You two are my ultimate power couple. I just want to document the love story of two academic superstars. I felt a little awkward. Don't be ridiculous. Vivian's cheeks turned pink as she quietly looked away. Oh my God. I'm so excited. Max covered his face in mock ecstasy. Leo, I was already impressed by you, but to have a goddess like Vivian, who's also the state's top scorer. If you two don't go viral, it's a crime against humanity. To avoid the awkwardness of just the two of us traveling, we finally agreed to bring Max along. We strolled through historic towns, biked along the coast, and made wishes at the foot of snowy mountains. Max became a travel vlogger, documenting our trip as we went. After getting our permission, he made our videos public. Oh my God, I'm so stoked. Max held up his new camera and yelled, I've decided. From now on, I'm going to be a vlogger who documents the lives of two geniuses. I'm going to be famous. Thanks again for giving me permission. As expected, Max's first video blew up. Netizens were first captivated by Vivian's beauty. Then, after learning she was an incoming college freshman and the state's top scorer, the likes skyrocketed. The comments section exploded with a terrifying hundreds of thousands of posts. Debut. Debut. This girl needs to debut right now. Any TV show directors watching? It would be a crime not to cast her as the female lead. Mark my words, this girl is going to have a massive fan base. The handsome guy next to her isn't bad either. What is this gorgeous power couple? Are they for real? Or is this just for clicks? The vlogger is amazing. The composition, the camera work, you could tell me he's a professional and I'd believe it. Don't just focus on their looks, people. Didn't you read the caption? They're the state's #1 and #2 scorers. Does a power couple like this actually exist? No way, it's just clickbait. Can't believe people are falling for this. Max's DMs were flooded with messages begging him to confirm it. He had to post a clarification. They're off the market and spoken for. This is just a record of their lives. Please do not disturb. That kid always loved photography and Photoshop, and his videography skills were top-notch. He deserved to go viral. While Max's channel was taking off, we stumbled upon one of Henry's videos. He was also documenting his graduation life with Amy, but almost every post included a jab at me. The top student at our school, who always acted so high and mighty, completely bombed the finals. He only got in the 500s. To save face, he lied and told everyone he got over 700. It's hilarious. On his phone, he and Amy were doing a cooking live stream. They were chatting casually, using me as a punchline to attract viewers. Amy, pass me the pepper shaker. The live stream had a lot of viewers, and the comments were flying by. Who's he talking about? I'm dying to know. You're from H State, right? Which high school did this top student go to? You're so handsome and your girlfriend is so pretty. You must have been the king of your school. Henry had the beauty filter cranked to level 10. He barely looked like himself. He was mixing a cold dish in a bowl. Let me tell you something hilarious. Amy asked him a few questions in high school, and he thought she liked him. He actually asked her to take a gap year with him. Our Amy got a 652 on the exams. Why would she retake them for him? I don't know what he was thinking. The comments were a flood of people calling me shameless. What kind of weirdo does that? Did he study so much his brain broke? Amy brought over the seasonings and joined Henry in the kitchen. The handsome couple looked pretty good in front of the heavily filtered camera. She looked at the screen and said, with perfect casualness, I have never encountered anything so ridiculous in my entire life. I actually feel kind of sorry for him. He has an extreme personality and didn't have many friends in high school. I guess all geniuses are a little weird. You're the weird one. Your whole family is weird. So shameless. Max, if I jump into his live stream right now and cuss them out, will it ruin my image? Max showed me his phone. Nope. I already tried. They kicked me out. But the shamelessness didn't end there. Henry held up a screenshot of a bank card to the camera. To get Amy to retake the year with him, this guy said she could have this card and spend whatever she wanted. My mind is blown. Family, trying to buy our Amy with money. What a shameless freeloader. Of course, Amy was scared off. And guess what? He actually forced the card on me and told me to give it to her. Next to him, Amy stared at him with her mouth agape, seemingly shocked that he would make up such an outrageous story. I can't say any more, family. I can only tell you the guy's last name starts with a J. I turned to Max. Is he talking about me? Max shook his head like a drum. Definitely not. He didn't use your name, just a last initial. You can't sue him. Vivian, who was helping Max with some editing, looked up, a thoughtful expression on her face. You don't need to do anything. There's something wrong with those two. They're bound to implode soon. How do you know? Vivian adjusted her titanium glasses with her long fingers. A hunch. Getting into a fight with people like that just lowers you to their level. They'll destroy themselves. It'll be soon. Trust me. We decided to just block Henry's account. Out of sight, out of mind. Then we had an amazing rest of our trip. We didn't go back until our acceptance letters arrived. The first thing my teacher did was post my letter in the class group chat. This is the power of a role model. Thank you, Leo, for your hard work. You're the first student I've ever sent to the Ivy League. You are my pride and joy. The group chat immediately exploded. A wave of congratulations flooded the chat. Surprisingly, Henry and Amy seemed to have vanished. They hadn't said anything in a long time. I heard the cutoff score for UCLA had been raised to 655. Henry had his heart set on going there, thinking it was the most romantic place in the world. Amy, wanting to chase their shared dream, wanted to go with him. Unfortunately, that dream was dead on arrival. Both of them had been rejected. Max heard some gossip and excitedly told me about it. Turns out Henry is actually crazy. His family sent him to a psychiatric hospital. What goes around comes around. The news was pretty sudden. Later, in a phone call, my teacher told me that the one who really bombed the exams was Henry. He had started having some mental health issues during senior year, probably due to the immense pressure. His grades were all over the place, very unstable. And he had always seen me as his rival, sometimes getting very emotional. When he checked his scores and saw he'd only gotten in the 400s, he had a complete breakdown. He deluded himself into thinking he had scored a 649, close to Amy's score. So when Amy told him I'd only scored in the 500s, he believed it instantly. And he clung to that belief. No amount of evidence could convince him otherwise. In his mind, I was the one who failed. He and Amy were equals, heading off to a beautiful university together to start a new life. When their first round of applications failed, his delusions had already gotten severe. He would act erratically at times, and even Amy noticed something was wrong. He called the UCLA admissions office, demanding to know why they weren't accepted when their scores were high enough. When they looked up his file, it turned out he had only scored a 449. Amy was stunned. That's when our teacher posted my acceptance letter. And Amy finally woke up. It turned out I had just been playing a joke on her the whole time. That evening, while Max and I were organizing our footage, Amy called. I stared at the name flashing on my screen, remembering all the countless times we'd talked on the phone. Hey Leo, it's raining. I already brought an umbrella, just come straight down. Hey Leo, I got a signed copy of the new edition of the Three-Body Problem. It was super hard to get. Want it? Leo, the boba shop has a new flavor. I waited in a super long line for it. Only Leo gets this special treatment, you know. I couldn't deny that Amy had been good to me. During those tense and boring days, she brought me a lot of joy. But looking back now, none of it was genuine. It was all driven by a strong, selfish motive. Why can't people just be sincere? I swiped to decline the call. She has the nerve to call you? Did she think about today when she was slandering you online? Max gritted his teeth, wishing he could curse her out to her face. You just watch. She won't give up. As he spoke, Amy's call came through again. It was clear she wouldn't stop until I answered. I declined again and blocked her number. A moment later, she sent me a massive wall of text. It must have been 5,000 words. Amy was great at writing. Her essays often got perfect scores. This one, I had no doubt, was eloquent and full of heartfelt emotion, designed to move anyone who read it. But I couldn't even be bothered to look at it and was about to delete it. Max stopped me. Whoa, hold on, let me see. My God, this Amy can really write. Anyone who didn't know better would think she's madly in love. At the end, she asks if you remember the promise you made. What promise? Thought for a moment. Probably the one about whether I'd give up Harvard for her. The nerve on this girl. What about her promise to Henry? Why isn't she at the mental hospital keeping him company? Well, now I have more material for my videos. I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine and make them famous. Max's channel had a huge following, and his content was mostly about me and Vivian. Amy's novel-length text gave him great material for another viral video. However, some people you just can't avoid. When I left my house, Amy had been waiting at my door for a long time. Under the shade of a tree, her long hair was damp with sweat and stuck to her cheeks. She was holding a cup of my favorite boba tea, condensation dripping down the plastic in a pathetic stream. Leo, her voice was raw. Can we talk? I looked at her calmly. I don't think we have anything to talk about.
Leo, I'm sorry.
I admit it, I was jealous of you. I was jealous that you could get first place so easily, while I could never catch up no matter how hard I tried. Before the exams, I was so insecure. I was afraid the gap between us would just get bigger and bigger. So when you told me you bombed, my first reaction was actually a sick kind of joy. I could finally look down on you. I'm such a horrible person. Finally, the truth. I didn't want to get dragged into any more drama with her. So I just said flatly, it's all in the past. No, it's not. Amy suddenly became agitated. Leo, do you remember what you promised me? You said that if I could never be your equal, you would give up Harvard for me. Henry's gone crazy, and my life is ruined. You're the only one who can save me. Please don't go to Harvard. Take a gap year with me. Please? I did so much for you. It's your turn to sacrifice something for me. Didn't we agree? Next year, we can go to Harvard together. I stared at her in disbelief. I couldn't believe she would even suggest such a thing. Amy, are you insane? We already broke up. And you were the one who dumped me. Amy grabbed my wrist. That's because you lied to me. If you had just told me your real score from the beginning, I never would have. Enough. I yanked my hand away. Amy, wake up. I bombed the test and you get to run off with someone else. You bombed the test and I'm supposed to retake the year with you? How can you be so self-absorbed? When Henry was sent to the psych ward, didn't you get your own head checked? Amy's mouth twitched. I thought you were different. Aren't you academic types all about sticking to your principles and not caring what the world thinks? I looked up at the sky, completely speechless. Please, I might be emotionally detached, but I can still tell a scumbag when I see one. You've really opened my eyes. Amy froze, her face chalk white, as if all the life had been drained from her. I turned and walked away without looking back. After school started, Vivian and I began our busy and fulfilling college lives. Max's channel blew up. He was now a famous vlogger with a dedicated series called Diary of a Genius Couple. He had also enrolled in a university in Boston, making it easier to follow us in real time. Amy, undeterred by my rejection, continued to visit me at Harvard whenever she had free time during her gap year. She was convinced that if she could win me over once, she could do it again. Unfortunately for her, every time she came, she saw me and Vivian together. She rarely got a chance to even say a word to me, and she was constantly being chased off by Max. After some treatment, Henry also went back to retake his senior year. He and Amy were in the same class again, but their relationship was nothing like before. Amy avoided him like the plague, but Henry wouldn't stop chasing her. Rumor has it that you could often see scenes on campus of her running, him chasing, and her having no escape. They both repeated the year, but their scores didn't change. Amy had no choice but to enroll in a decent school in Boston, Boston College, which made it convenient for her to visit me at Harvard from time to time. She declared with confidence, "Leo, you just wait. I'll definitely get into Harvard for grad school." Vivian stepped between us, putting distance between me and her. "Right. Keep dreaming." Max, holding his camera, called out to her. "Stop chasing him. They're on their way to a class with a Fields medalist. This is where gods do battle. A mere mortal like you shouldn't be trying to join in, okay?" Amy was indignant. "Max, we were classmates. Why are you always taking her side?" Max rolled his eyes at her. "Please, what part of you is better than a single strand of her hair? Is dreaming your new addiction? All right, Amy, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button." Later, I was invited back to my high school to give a speech. A student asked, "Sir, do you think scores are really that important?" I stood at the podium, looking at the young, curious faces in the audience, and smiled. Scores are important, of course. They determine what kind of university you can get into and what resources you'll have access to. I paused. But they aren't everything in life. So, everyone, I raised my voice, don't let a score limit your vision. Your final exams are just one checkpoint in life, not the finish line. More important than your score is your character, your perspective, and your integrity. Truly excellent people don't get jealous of others' success, nor do they blame the world for their own failures. As long as you have an unyielding will, even without the prestige of a top school, you will still shine brightly on your own path. Good luck, students.